Done. Good afternoon to everybody and welcome to the second webinar of the FinBlue, which we are organizing as mentorship sessions for the startups of the FinBlue and all others STP units. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all the captains of the industries, my esteemed colleagues from the STPI, our esteemed guest today, Mr. D.S. Khatavkar, and all other colleagues from STPI Chennai. I would like to welcome them for this webinar session. This session is besides the Leadership Summit, which we are organizing under the STPI Pulse brand name by our STPI headquarters, where we are every week, the leadership of the STPI, led by Dr. Omkar Rai, Director General of STPI, and one prominent personality from the IT fraternity is joining us, and he is both are addressing to the entire IT fraternity of the country, and this has been a very successful exercise. In the same line, we are trying our bit to host another similar seminar, but in a little bit different format, and this is subject specific and specific to the fintech startup. Before inviting the esteemed guest, let me take a few minutes to set up the context today. India's digital push in terms of nurturing the startup ecosystem, smartphone penetration, the success of the India Stack, and of course the Jam Trinity have brought India into the digital map of the world. It has made our society digitally empowered, and it has made us the knowledge economy. I'm sure that these are the vehicles which will catapult India into a $1 trillion economy in the time to come. The success of the India Stack, be it is in terms of the transaction in the large banks, onboarding of the customers, whether it is asset transactions in very few minutes, or it is a onboarding of the customer in telecom or other service providers, India Stack have been shown to the world that probably India is the fittest ground for breeding the technology. This success of the India Stack have actually brought a lot of participation from the private industry, and those technologies which has been implemented in this country, they have actually changed the entire paradigm of doing the business in this world. It has not only providing the ease of the business, but it is also reducing the cost of doing business, and which has actually multifolded the market size from 10x to 50x. STPI is also contributing in this India's digital push in terms of providing and building the domain-specific startup ecosystems at the various locations in the country by setting up center of excellences in the emerging technologies, whether it is artificial intelligence or it is blockchain technology, IoT, AI, augmented and VR, animation industry, medical electronics, cyber security, chip designing, ESDM, you name anything, and STPI have rest this initiative of supporting this upcoming startup ecosystem. Fintech is one of the domain which is also emerging, and STPI Chennai have been entrusted with setting up a center of excellence in fintech technology, which we very fondly call FinBlue, where unrestricted, uninhibited growth of the fintech startup is happening. We are doing it in a very collaborative environment. We have roped in the stalwarts of the IT industry as our chief mentor. Each of the center of excellence being promoted by the STPI is being headed by IT stalwarts, and FinBlue is being headed by Mr. Arun Jain, who is the chairman and the managing director of the Intellect Design and founder, and he was the founder of the Polaris company as well. Under his guidance, Center of Excellence of FinTech have been actually implemented, and we are looking forward for the greater participation of the startups into the system. All these technologies which I have mentioned are having a tremendous potential. They are disruptive in nature. They are exponential in nature. They have changed. They have the capability to solve today's business problem in a ways that were not possible earlier. But there are certain questions which need to be answered. These questions, which we feel that in case of the fintech is very relevant, and we thought that we should try to answer these questions in terms of the usability, scalability, and the security. These are the three very pertinent issues which need to be solved if all these disruptive technologies has to grow. We have the blockchain, which is a disruptive technology, but whether we are able to address the problem of the scalability of the blockchain technology, IoT similarly, it's again a very disruptive technology, but or we are able to address all the security apprehensions of the IoT technology, which need to be inbuilt if we have to make it successful and usable by all the masses in the country. So probably this is the right time for me. We are here to today address this one problem of the security as far as the fintech company is concerned. And that is why we have chosen today's topic of the discussion is fintech and cyber security. I would like to rope in now the today's esteemed speaker, who is Mr. D.S. Khatavkar, who would like to be called as Atul Khatavkar, which is the name which has been given by his parents. And he has 25-year experience in the cyber security and IT governance, risk and compliance. He's advising Data Security Council of India and NESCOM on building a National Cyber Security Excellence Center. He's the founder CEO of a cybersecurity company known as Messrs. High Band Communication Private Limited, and he has very fond of, discussing and told me about his association with STPI when he started his journey from the STPI incubation facility at Pune. After selling this company, he has moved on and he has joined the SR Group company known as AGC Networks from 2009 to 2018, which was a leading company in the field of unified communications, data center, and edge IT, cyber security, and digital transformation and applications. He has won many accolades. Mr. Atul has won Managed Security Service Provider of the Year 2020 to 2007 award at Intel Security APEC Summit. He also worked as an advisor to the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India from 2017 to 2019. He is an engineering graduate from the Shivaji University, Pune. He is residing with his family in Mumbai. I would like to request Mr. D.S. Khatavkar, please take over and address us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay Tyagi, for nice introduction. Thank you, entire STPI team, especially Murugan, who was relentlessly, trying to make this happen. Thank you, all the participants, for joining at this point of time. Thank you, Mr. Mani, who is doing tremendous amount of good work in mentoring startups in Chennai. He was the one who actually, introduced me to STPI and, asked me to do this. And thanks entire STPI initiative, because as Dr. Sanjay said, I'm very proud, I'm very honored to be part of this and STPI inviting me because as he said rightly, in 1999, I had started a company called as High Band Communications. In 2000, somehow we decided to, start a product division and started developing SIEM at that point of time. Of course, we wanted to use SIEM as SaaS service and offer managed security services. It was too early, but at that point of time, bandwidth was a big issue. And we were, kind of struggling how we, will be able to offer this on our own. And that's where STPI, Dr. Gupta came. He, he was a mentor to us. He said, you guys, we were extremely I would say very young at that point. My age must be around 28, and he was very fatherly figure. He said, "Don't worry, we will take care of you." And he offered Highband to come and work from STPI, and we were very happy at that point of time. We used to get huge bandwidth. 10 Mbps was a huge bandwidth in STPI Pune, and we were very happy. And that's where I feel very honored to be associating again with STPI. Of course, uh, today's topic, fintech and cybersecurity, as you all know, that cybersecurity is a very big topic. 1 hour talking about it, covering many things are not possible. But I will try and see, whatever maximum I have gathered as, my experience, I will share that with you. I would request everyone, after my presentation, uh, we can have a question answer session. Besides that, if somebody wants to contact me, he can reach me out on email or phone or through LinkedIn. There's no problem. So I think we'll start the session now. Thanks again, all the participants from across India, across the world, for joining this. I'm honored to talk about this. Fintech and cybersecurity, very current topic. Let's go to next slide. So today, what I will try and cover is, following points. As you can see, all cybersecurity domain overview. I'll just, give you, a, high level overview is what industry is all about. Then we'll move to current impact on cybersecurity, because whatever is happening around us, how it has impacted cybersecurity is something we will discuss. Fintech always has been a big topic for cybersecurity, but currently for this particular discussions, I would want to cover more relevant, discussions which are around COVID and the impact of COVID around cybersecurity. The next thing I would like to cover is type of current cybersecurity attacks after COVID, because last 3 months we have been observing few things and the changes thereof in the attacks. Now all this is happening and we are working from home. So what are the short-term strategies that industry, whether it is fintech or whether a normal industry, what it should be doing in terms of short-term strategy? Then long-term strategy. Once you are up operational, gone back to normal, what should be the long-term strategy? That is something we will discuss. Then going further, what will happen? How do we see changes will impact on a long-term basis? And then question and answers after that. So I think this is overall coverage I have. Next slide talks about cybersecurity top concerns. Now on the left side, you won't be able to see clearly what is written, but I'll just explain you. On the top, there is a cybersecurity issue. What does it mean is there are 10 topics under which CEOs were interviewed, the government professionals were interviewed, and they were asked as to what will disrupt their business, what do they see as a threat which will disrupt their normal workings. And of course cyber security is on the top. So I think people were knowing that there is something going to happen in case they don't implement the cyber security in the right way. On the right side, cybersecurity ventures predicts cybercrime damages will cost the world more than 6 trillion annually by 2021. That is next year. So we are talking, if I have to really translate this, what does this mean? Is as a country as a whole, our target as a country is $5 trillion economy. If you see our PMO always addressing Indian economy 5 trillion in next 5 years. But here, if you see the losses which are predicted are high, in fact, India's overall economy. And that's where the seriousness is about cybersecurity industry. And that if you see the 6 trillion has increased from 3 trillion in 2015. So it is continuously, increasing year by year. Fintech sector, if you see, how does it get affected? Fintech sector is the maximum victim of cybersecurity incidents. Fintech handles sensitive information about individuals and enterprises. More and more data is now available in the digital format, which makes it easier to analyze and generate insights. So it is good, one way we are able to analyze a lot of data using fintech, but also it makes very difficult because data is such susceptible to security breaches. Privacy and cyber security now needs greater attention because India also is coming out. Of course, you have already seen GDPR, California Act, very stringently, enforcing privacy. But India also is almost there for privacy law. Hence, fintech should be very much aware about, how they are handling the customer data and what is the impact if they are able to miss that. What are the penalties they are going to get? And that's very critical issue as far as privacy is concerned. Of course, we are coming. India also will have a separate bill on cyber security. So these two issues are something which fintech needs to be very much aware and careful about, and needs to plan around it. So next, what I have tried here is to give just glimpse of top 5 breaches in cybersecurity. The first one, I'll just remind you, many of you guys might be aware also, Equifax, which was breached in 2017, almost 3 years back. 143 million accounts in the US were compromised, not only in the US, but then it got affected to Canada, UK, and data breach that involved personal information. Hackers also stole more than 200,000 credit card numbers. And you all may be aware, but this all went very badly against senior management of Equifax. CEO had to testify in the Congress why it happened, and CEO had to resign, CFO, and a lot of top management had to quit. And all these incident, basically Equifax, how this happened, all the forensics has been done, and we will come to the conclusions as why it happened in the later on my discussions. But simple things, have impacted the entire Equifax, and therefore, the largest breach which we call today in the fintech is Equifax. The second is Heartland Payment Systems in 2008. If you can see, TRW Information Systems, JP Morgan. In fact, JP Morgan 2014 was one of the, again, very talked about security breach. And everybody knows that CEO of JP Morgan really announced huge commitment for cybersecurity. He announced more than $500 million commitment for investment in cybersecurity, and therefore, what we have seen is every time the hack happens, a lot of attention is paid to cybersecurity. The budgets come in rolling, and it is all post facto, reactions. So this entire data is available on Digital Guardian as a newspaper. One can see that and do more study. But my point of discussions for this particular incident is there are good learnings from these incidents, and we can definitely implement the mistakes that have been made by the companies they got affected, and those learnings can be implemented on our day-to-day operations. Next. So I just gave you the background of cybersecurity as an industry, how it got affected in the fintech sector, and now instead of generally talking about various kinds of cybersecurity attacks, we will focus on what has changed. So I keep on hearing a lot of presentations nowadays. World has changed. Everybody is saying that world will never be like what we have enjoyed till January, February, and after COVID, we will not be able to function, think, act as what we did 3 months back. Very ironic, but the fact remains, yeah, it has changed. Now, a lot of businesses are trying to gear up, understand what next, what strategies need to be applied. At the same time, in cybersecurity, what has changed in last 3 months, I will discuss. I will then go to what is required to be done going further. Next slide. So you can see we are in the era of COVID-19 pandemic continues to affect every phase of our life and business. The effort to maintain normalcy has led to work from home, now becoming new normal for many organizations and look like it is here to stay. Like right now I'm talking from home and this will continue. That's what people are predicting now. This is a new work from home norm has given new challenges to security industry and especially CIOs, CISOs and top management. Let's see, four areas which are the most critical. Use of personal devices and email for business or handling sensitive information. Prior to COVID, many of the organizations were not anticipating this kind of scene will happen. Therefore, typically employees are using their personal devices and emails for business sensitive information. And they are allowed to because there is no choice right now. Provisioning corporate assets to support remote working arrangements. So now what is happening is a lot of corporate assets are, used for supporting remote working environment. Proper deployment and configuration of remote services, corporate VPNs, and related two-factor authentication methods. People who do not have this are really struggling a lot. And low security standards of home Wi-Fi system. We have seen a lot of Wi-Fi breached from home because even if we keep password, the passwords are very simple. Mainly those majority of the time, if I have to ask right now, stopping here, how many of you have changed your Wi-Fi password in last 2 years, 3 years? Many of you may not be aware also what password we have kept to the Wi-Fi system. As against, if you see, we have very strong password controls in our corporate environment. Next. Now, what has happened is cyber, criminals have been using this opportunity of, unfortunately, this COVID-19 to outbreak, to attack. Now, how they are attacking? If you see, they are conducting email scams. They are doing a lot of phishing campaigns. There are a lot of ransomware attacks. That's what we are seeing in last 2 to 3 months. These emails and messages contain malicious files masked under links of .pdf, .mp4, and .docs files. So if you see, lots of these mails are hitting our inboxes. Organizations which were future ready on the remote working are now in much better position. Now you see the business impact. Those who were actually having infrastructure to offer services by giving remote monitoring to remote working to their employees are in better position to offer their services even in this scenario. And that is the biggest change I would say COVID-19 has brought in the business scenario. Next. This is the actually fact. FBI has come out with statement. FBI Deputy Assistant Director is saying that they used to receive 1,000 complaints a day before COVID. After COVID, they are getting 3,000 to 400 complaints a day. Now you can see the number of times it has increased is 3 to 4 times complaints are being received. There are many who do not complain as also, mind you. So definitely there is huge amount of criminal activities going on. Now the next paragraph, if you see what they are saying, when we hoped that maybe cyber criminals are human beings too, and they thought they will not be targeting people in this kind of scenario. But sadly, that has not been the case. And that's the change which is happening, what I'm talking about in 3 months. As we actually are getting into critical situation, criminals, cyber criminals, are increasing their attacks and they are exploiting the non-preparedness of the corporates and individuals to fight cybercrime. Everything from, say, setting up fraudulent internet domains. We have seen people set up fraudulent COVID charities, promise delivery of masks and other equipments, and then deliver fraudulent loans, extortions. So pretty much, sadly, anything you can think of, cyber criminals are quite creative. And FBI is saying that, but we have also seen in when our PMO, announced the fund and asked people to contribute, there were fake sites immediately, getting operated, and people were diverted to those sites, and fraud started happening. The next is India impact. Now, during this time, you might have read, IT giant Cognizant was attacked by novel Maze ransomware. Ransomware usually sneaks into your system, finds critical files, holding confidential data, and encrypts it with its own encryption keys. Then the attackers demand a ransom from you. And that's how the ransomware works. They actually encrypt your file. That means you are not able to access your own file, your own data, and they demand the money from you. Maze, which, this ransomware which got at Cognizant, actually what it does is three things. It encrypts, it exfiltrates, copy your data into attacker system, and extorts. Maze actually encrypts the data and extorts the victim. They ask for money, and that's the double whammy. Because Maze also has a history of leaking this data. At the same time, they will sell this data on the internet. So actually, it's very risky thing because they will take money from you. At the same time, they will also sell this data outside. So you have no control of what they are doing. And that's where, these kind of ransomwares are very risky. And we need to protect ourselves in this kind of scenario. And we need to have proactive, systems in place to make sure that we are not falling victim of such ransomwares. Next slide. This is actually a slide talking about types of cyber attacks. Little bit on the higher level, 30,000 level, view of how the cyber attacks are launched. This is something called as OSI layer. We all know Open System Interconnection Model, OSI layer. It starts from your physical cables and goes up to your application layer. So each layer there are attacks. How those attacks are planned, what kind of attacks are planned on those layers. This slide actually kind of gives a summary of different attacks. Now, if you see on the application and the last slide, you typically get all phishing related attacks. While on the bottom side, when there are cables and other things, you have a physical layer. You have a lot of physical hardware exploits which are put onto your corporate or your individual laptop. That's how those attacks typically get planned, and you need to be careful about having strategy to defend all these kind of attacks. Next slide. So now what has happened is, because this COVID, we have shift in working pattern due to current COVID crisis. Overall percent of managing threats have changed as employees are working from home. Organization security infra is not able to provide adequate protection as it would have for in-house employees. There is a clear difference when you go and sit in an organization. You have a local area network there, and you have sophisticated controls, which are kind of controlling your desktop, laptop, or your mobile devices. But in this scenario, when person is working from home, clearly those controls are not applicable. Centralized management becomes difficult as large number of employees need to be there using their personal devices for official use. You can see it's becoming very difficult to centrally control all the employees sitting at their respective homes. Sensitive data is being handled outside of the organization boundaries. This is a big challenge companies are facing in current scenario. For software teams, codes are being developed and shared via open platforms, and this is something what hackers are targeting, because they know all in this scenario people do not have proper mechanism to secure their data. Difficult to enforce compliance to standards due to distributed work employment. Everybody is sitting at its location at home, and centrally enforcing the compliance is becoming a challenge. Now we had discussed this earlier also, we are discussing it here. The reason behind that is next thing what I'm going to discuss is how this shift in working pattern is changing the types of attacks. Now, in last 3 months, threat intelligence company has figured out what kind of attacks are happening currently. Now, if you see, there are opportunistic attackers. Typically, they are uh, interested in making money. Their motivation is to make money, and lot of things happening through spam campaigns, then data breaches and ransomware. We saw typically these three attacks are being generated for making money by hackers. Then second kind of attackers, very surprisingly, is happening is targeted attacks. There are groups in North Korea and Pakistan who are found to be attacking for certain information. Now, just to give you one glimpse, is these targeted attacks are targeting our research companies who are researching on COVID solution, for example. So idea is there to see what they are doing, if they are able to get the formula. That kind of motives are there, because those are country sponsored attacks. So you can see Russia and these typically North Korea, Russia, there are groups who are actually going after countries for their own different purposes. Next slide. This is very interesting slide, just to give you a glimpse of what happens on darknet. Now you might have heard of darknet. What we say and what we use internet is normal internet, but below that normal internet there is huge amount of information which gets exchanged, which is basically fraudulent criminal information, and that is the activity which is called as darknet. Now, darknet, where hackers freely communicate with each other, they get the information, they exchange the information, and that's how the attacks are launched. Now, you may not be able to read this, but these are actually communication between hackers happening on the internet. So what they are asking, if you see, is anyone has some good virus scheme phishing phishing email template. Okay, so the question asked here is, anyone has any good virus theme phishing and phishing email template? Now the answer here, somebody has answered. You write subject as government COVID-19 alert. Someone in your local area has been diagnosed with coronavirus. Please download this link so that you will get. So basically, they are using very creative, kind of subjects. And when you actually see and you innocently download this, then your computer will definitely get infected. Now, this is the kind of darknet communication happens. Next, again, there are some examples. If you see, buy coronavirus test kits. So these are the subjects which cybersecurity intelligence people find, and they have categorized that this is the communication which is hitting. Now these hackers send the mails in many thousands, and out of say 100,000 people, even if 100 people download this, their computers get compromised. Next. Now, this is the phishing attack live example. This is my own Gmail ID. And yesterday, this mail has hit my inbox. In fact, you will see, you also will be getting a lot of such emails. I'm just kind of trying to give this example so that in case your personal email gets something like this message, you should be very careful about seeing who is sending that. And you need to really check what is the purpose. And these typically their lines which you get in the email, the subjects are very catchy. So what he's saying is results announced, ticket number so and so, amount one. Please click here to see what amount he has won. So this is yesterday's email. I'm just sharing as just information so that all of you are kind of aware. I'm sure many of you must be knowing about this, but this particular message is just to make people aware who are really not aware about the subject. Next. I'll just take a pause here. Now we have kind of seen what kind of uh, things have changed, how the cybersecurity industry is, what has changed over after COVID, and cyber criminals really are taking disadvantage of this situation. In fact, nobody in the uh, police section, or you can say intelligence section, anticipated that this kind of activity will emerge when entire humanity is facing a problem. But that is not something which is a concern with hackers, and that's why we need to be very careful about. Now, these future couple of slides, I will talk about what do we do immediately. Now, since you are in a financial technology domain, we have a RBI, and RBI has RBI IT. RBI IT immediately came out with guidelines for fintech COVID specific requirements. You can visit their site also, rbit.org.in, and they have very good guidelines given. Starts with securing your internet connection, teleworking with VPN, use of secure remote access services, beware of phishing attacks, what we saw in the earlier slide. Keep your confidential information safe. Keep official communication private and safe when you are working from home. Verify before making transactions, very important, because don't kind of make any transaction, make it sure that you are verifying. You may call that person to make sure that he is the one who has sent some request for authorizing the transaction or conducting the transaction. Stay safe from malwares. These days, as we saw, malwares are hitting everyone at home because they know that at personal level people do not have much protection. Protect computer from damages. This is very important because physically we may not be as secure as we are in the corporate. We may work where the water and other things are there. So you need to really see your hardware computer is not damaged during this time. Report suspicious incidents, very important, because in case you find anything suspicious, you actually report it to company, or we have a reporting mechanism in the country as well. So these are immediate guidelines which are given by RBI. Next slide. Immediately, after COVID attacks, even our CERT-in is the apex body for reporting the incidents, has come out with a cyber attack warning. I have just given you the screenshot, but there are specific areas which CERT-in has mentioned that one needs to take care in this time. So they have actually the data of attackers who are attacking our country, and there are guidelines given for following during this time. Now, in short term, a few of our learnings which I would like to share. Geofencing at the perimeter. Typically, if you are using a firewall or IPS, IDS, you will have a feature called as geofencing. That means at the countries which you are not transacting or you are not dealing with, you can actually bar them for incoming outgoing traffic. That way, at least you make sure that you are kind of allowing only countries which are or even you can geotag by IPs, you can geotag by locations and whatever. A very useful feature in our firewalls. Then you have two-factor authentication. Make sure that you have two-factor authentication enabled, so that people who are logging from home, they are not just on the username and password, but they also have something more than username and password. Extensive log monitoring, especially privilege identity monitoring. Log monitoring is very important in this kind of scenario, because you will know exactly who is coming, who is hitting, are there any suspicious activities going on. And privilege means administrators. All administrator logs need to be extremely monitored very well, because if something gets compromised at that level, then there are very hardly chance that you will be able to recover very fast. So privilege identity monitoring is very important. Improve reconciliation mechanism. Always try and see what who was authorized, and whether those only are getting. So there has to be some process of reconciliation of access control and authorization of people to be always checked. Also, very important thing is time-based access for work from home. I mean, those people who do not require to work after certain time, you may not allow them to access certain company data. This kind of feature also will make you really a little safer than giving open access all the time. Then 6, mandate password changes every week for work from home. Although this will look little challenging, but at the same time, with this little change in the password policy at this point of time, you will be able to achieve great thing. Because if somebody is doing some mischief in the, if he's having a man in the middle attack, or he's sniffing your communication, he will not be able to do many things, because you are frequently changing the passwords. Next slide. A very practical example of what typically you should do while using the Zoom, because a lot of people, if you see who were using Zoom and suddenly a WhatsApp message popping in that one should not be using Zoom at all. Now these kind of guidelines give you a guideline for the host, as well as tips for the participants. So first, what they are saying is use generic IDs. Use the generated IDs. Don't use the generic IDs. There is a waiting room function which allows only authorized participants to enter the meeting. So basically use waiting room function, log the meeting, once everyone is in. So these are the simple tips, like turn off your join before host. Simple tips can help you to secure your Zoom communication also. So these are, short-term measures which are, released as soon as, people found vulnerabilities in the communication. Next slide. Let's discuss some long-term strategy. Next. Long-term strategy use best practices and standards. Now, standard list you can refer to is ISO 27001, ISO 22301, which is BCMS, that is Business Continuity Management System. ISO 27001 is Information Security Management System, ISMS. COBIT is a high-level guideline for implementing IT controls, and NIST 800.30. These are the high-level standards which gives you clear policies how you should run the security and continuity in your organization. Now, what has happened is this entire cybersecurity issue, when we discuss, majority of the people think it's a technology issue. Now, on the right side, if you see, there are three pillars. First is people, second is process, and third is technology. And with my experience, I always have seen that no need of focusing on just one pillar. If you are just focusing on technology and not process and people, security will not help you, because people are the weakest link in cybersecurity. All the employees, especially today's case, if you see, when they are working remotely, when there is no help for them centrally, people are the weakest link, and you need to focus on people more, processes more, as well as on the technology. And that's where the key thing is in the long term, because it is not current problem, but going further, if we are working remotely in a decentralized environment, then people need to be extremely aware about what care they should be taking while working remotely. And you need to have strong processes, like as we saw, password controls every 7 days. This is a process tweaking, but it gives tremendous amount of boost to the security and challenges for the hackers. Now, these standards give you clear guideline as to how one can implement these frameworks. RBI has given guidelines for all the fintech industry. Please go through that. And they also have mentioned that CISO or vCISO is must now. CISO is Chief Information Security Officer. Typically, I have seen, a lot of people use IT people, IT staff as their own security people. But going further, you need to be careful. You need to have your own dedicated Chief Information Security Officer in place. If not, if that is not possible, you need to at least get some mentor who is a senior person who can give you the CISO as a service, or virtual CISO. He can guide your entire IT team and drive you through. So this is something which is mandatory. People, as I want to emphasize again, is people talk of technology in cybersecurity, but cybersecurity is much more than technology. And the other two pillars are most important, especially people and processes. So this is something which you need to remember. Going further, I will talk about technology also. What technology is important in the long strategy. We saw people important. Some of the long-term strategy on the process side, you review the password policies now, because many of the people used to have 90 days expiry or 60 days, 45 days expiry for the users. But working from home is a different scenario altogether. Conduct mandatory awareness sessions for making people aware what they should do, what they should not do, how the attack vectors are changing, how phishing is happening. As I showed, emails, you need to give them live example as to how email and phishing looks like, how they should be very careful. carry out phishing simulation, because you can send some phishing mails and there are simulation services available, and see whether people are getting trapped in such kind of activities. Enforce multi-factor authentication. Of course, when you log in from remote location, if you have two-factor, multi-factor authentication, it will help you. So these are basically long-term changes you need to see. Email warning reminders need to enable. If some changes are happening, email is sent, and reminders are sent to changes of certain things like passwords and all. Implement virtual desktop environment for employees to connect and work instead of using their personal devices. So basically, this is very key feature. If you allow employee to use virtual desktop sitting at home, entire data remains with the company. He's just connecting. Nothing remains with him at his home, and that way you are making sure that the company confidential data is available with the company, and there is no risk for any kind of thing from employees device perspective. It is easier to manage manage and secure organization control with VD employment. Virtual desktop is the best environment. Next, part of long term is when you actually have employee working from home, endpoint detection response, what we call is EDR, has become now mandatory, because only antivirus doesn't give a proper protection. Any attack which is surpassing the antivirus will be detected by endpoint detection and response, and there will be immediate response sent, or attack will be blocked. And that's why EDR is becoming more relevant now when working from home. Prioritize patching of vulnerabilities actively exploited in the wild. So vulnerability management, basically patching activities, is very important process, because all the hackers are exploiting the known vulnerabilities. Majority of hacking happens through the situation where devices are not patched properly. If possible, disable split tunnel on VPN to ensure while connected to corporate network, all traffic must pass through corporate infrastructure. If you are able to enforce entire traffic going through corporate infrastructure, you will be able to monitor and take control of such traffic, and you will be able to contain a lot of activities. Actively ingest all IOCs related to recent attack. Basically, you need to have, those who have, say, SOC or SIM, they can configure those applications like SIM with the known indicator of threats, and actively monitor and block as per the need. Monitor for abnormal VPN activities, login attempt. This is very important. Scan for attack surface, identify, disable any unwanted service. So basically, SSH, whitelist, RDP, those are a long-term thing one needs to really see. I'm talking too much technical. Those who are not really into IT administration or from IT side, pardon me for this. Next slide. Overview of how one needs to monitor the entire activity about security. One can set up, if you have a SOC, nothing like it, but if there is no security operations center, you can set up one to monitor. And I have given high level devices, softwares, hardware, whatever is required to build the next generation and state of the art incident detection and response technology. So you actually, it is nothing but you can now say it's a big data lake in the back, doing lots of analytics and lots of automation. In the core, if you see, there is now software called as security orchestration, automation and response. This SOAR technology or software allows you to respond to the threats automatically, reducing the pressure on the human beings to intercept any attack happening. So many of this kind of SOAR technology and software can take the action automatically. So this is overview of a very big subject. One can go talking about it on 5 days, but I just thought let me at least make things sensitive so that people are aware about how one can see the entire dashboards at one place. So on the left hand side, there is a data injection where you get tons of data from say network traffic, entire LAN network traffic, all big deep files about. You can get all the network files and do a deep inspection for entire network flow. Then get entire firewall, IPS, IDS security logs, your endpoint logs, antivirus logs. You can also integrate all your cloud related data and logs into SIEM. You have identity access management, you get that integrated. You have a lot of applications, all logs of applications one can get into SIEM. IoT devices and non-standard IT devices also can feed a lot of information and logs to SIEM. SIEM can be configured with the rules, with the known threat vectors. And this SIEM in turn talks to SOAR, and this orchestration layer allows you to configure and respond to the threats without any human intervention. The SIEM actually gets lots of feed from threat intelligence. You have deception technologies, you do vulnerability assessment, those data can go. You do risk posture assessment, all that data, or user behavioral analytics. So a lot of data you can actually feed in the central system of SIEM and connect it to SOAR to make the decisions faster and make them automated. Next. The second and very important thing is I would like to share here is unfortunately we in the companies and corporates do not share. We want to keep everything with us, but hackers in opposite direction who attack, they share a lot of intelligence and they share a lot of information. Their information sharing has made them at least 10 steps ahead than companies and corporates. Now, I'll just give you example here. You can build your own community intelligence, like fintech intelligence, and share that intelligence across all the companies, so that one attack happening from certain source you can block. I'll give one example very quickly here. We are running out of time. This example is all about Cognizant, which got attacked on the Maze ransomware. So I got this advisory, like it is got attacked yesterday. Please follow the below indicator of compromise and ask your IT team to take necessary actions. You can see here the IP address 91.21.8.114, 91.218.114.4, and the second one at your perimeter. So you block these two IP addresses because they are already found attacking using Maze DLL. So this kind of intelligence, and then there is advisory, ports 445, 139, 3389, you block those ports. So subscribe to such threat intelligence so that you make sure yourself, at least with the known attacks on ransomware or malware, you have the rules set in at the perimeter so that they don't enter your networks. Next, please. So quickly on the ransomware before I end my presentation. Ransomware is very dangerous attack, and it completely wipes out to your data. So some tips I have tried to give here. Remove all your local admin and privileges, at least on the desktops wherever possible. Make periodic backups, because if you get attacked and the backups are not up to date, you may have to just stay quiet and look at God, because the ransomware, if you are not able to pay, and even if you pay, if he doesn't give you your data back to you, you are at the mercy of God. So please make sure that backups are completely whatever you want to back, those backups are up to date. Always have antivirus solutions with updated signatures. All your softwares, OSs must have latest patches. Remote desktop connection not needed. Please review those RDPs given. disconnect them. Always treat all mails with care. Never click on any suspicious link in email. This is the biggest threat for ransomware. Disable macros in the office programs unless very essential. So these are some of the tips I thought I will share with you for proactively managing ransomware. Next slide. Here is a good slide by Data Security Council of India. This is about resuming back to workplace. That means when we are out with this virus thing and people are allowed to go back to offices, you may visit DACI site or you can communicate, but they have 6-step methodology given as to how to go back to workplace in a secure way. So this is very good. They have full document on this. I just thought let me share, so that you are ready when you resume back to the work. Next slide. Going further, organizations that have capabilities of endpoint monitoring, control, identity access, we discussed multi-factor authentication, will be always way ahead of other competitors. One of the critical tech capabilities required ongoing forward will be cognitive-based response system, which I discussed, which is SOAR, which learns on its own to respond to cybersecurity threat rather than relying on any human security analyst to analyze and respond. Next slide. So I think I'm on time, 4 o'clock, and thank you very much. I would, request all of you to have any questions if you have. And again, thank you very much, STPI, all the attendees for patiently listening this session. I know I cannot cover all the topics in cybersecurity, but relevant to this particular situation, whatever I felt we should be talking about. You can reach me always on my phone, email, and I'm open to all kinds of discussions. Thank you for patiently listening. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay.
Thank you, Atulji. Thank you very much for this exhaustive and very comprehensive presentation on the cyber security. I think it is very, very useful in the present timing, in the present very tough circumstances, but very, very interesting circumstances as well. I have decided to start, when I started this webinar, that I will not use these 4 dreaded words. I will avoid these 4 words, but I will use it as an interesting time. And probably the problems which has been faced from working from the home, especially which you have addressed in your presentation, and when they will resume work from workplace, how to do the transformation between the work from home to work from the working place. I think you have covered it very nicely. FinTech intelligence you have spoken about. This is a wonderful suggestion you have given to us, sir. We would be love to create a platform for our all FinTech startup companies, which may share our FinTech intelligence and threat intelligence, which can provide the threat intelligence to each other. Now I would like to open the floor for the question answer session, and I will request to the people, I'm sure you must be having many questions, but whatever the questions we will be able to take in this short time, we would like to take, please raise your hand and ask your questions if you have any. No? So meanwhile, I can ask you one question, sir.
Yeah,
that, pertaining to the FinTech company,
yeah.
and the advent of the FinTech company, especially in the, there is a lot of advancement is happening into this domain. So
Right.
what do you think, what is the challenge, immediate challenge for these companies in terms of the addressing the cyber security threats, and how they can inculcate these securities into their products and the app which they are developing right now?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sanjay ji, for nice. It's been a really great question, and to answer shortly, this question is, of course, keeping the fintech security in mind. RBI IT has given a lot of guidelines, and they have a secure coding guideline document which is available on the RBI IT site. So security in design is something what they talk about. So when you are actually coding any application, what care you should take and make sure that your application is well secure. All these information and the guidelines are given. They also have a good maturity model. So you start somewhere and you keep on monitoring how your controls are, behaving. So RBI is quite active in guidelining. To my experience, I was also advisor to one mobile wallet company, and to share that experience, mobile company wallet was not launched 4 years back. They were just developing the product, but they had decided to work in the cloud. So they started working from cloud for the development and other things, and we were monitoring their entire activities through our central operating SOC center, security operations center. Before the company was launched, we had seen so many attacks from so many countries. So one thing is very clear: is whether your operations in we are starting operations or not, people actually are trying to watch what you are doing, and that's where this geofencing, like if you're not transacting, like fintech companies not transacting with Russia, you can actually geofence and secure yourself. You can if you're not doing something with Brazil, you can geofence yourself. Those are very innovative ideas we found, and we could block so many things before it was launched. But when the product was launched, and when we found the wallet started operating, and still there were a lot of vulnerabilities in the wallet, and we could show them transferring money from one user to another user using the weaknesses in the code. So I think it's very important to follow SDLC process, and that is well defined. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So we are having Mr. Deepak Verma with us who would like to ask you a question. Deepak Verma, you may go ahead. Please unmute yourself. His voice is not coming. His voice is not coming. We are not able to listen you. Can you unmute yourself, please? No.
No.
Yeah. So we have another question from Mr. Yeah, please go ahead.
So can you hear
Mr.
me?
Satyaprakash.
Yeah, can you hear me? No, can you hear me, sir? Good afternoon.
Again, voice issue.
They can put it in chat if.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
So you may all ask your questions in the chat if it is difficult for you to. There is any technological issues is there. I would like to open the chat. Yeah, Mr. Vijay Rajan, you can ask your question, please.
Yes, sir. What would be the role of virtual and augmented reality in cybersecurity space?
See, basically, from business side, all these new technologies are really great. The challenge what puts everything on the cybersecurity is you need to really sit as a cybersecurity analyst, or you can sit as you can say white hacker, and then you will understand that when you are advancing into technologies, there are many challenges also you create, and those challenges typically are the bugs which are kept in the applications. So anything which is coming out newly, as I discussed earlier, also mobile wallets, huge problems were found, and that is mainly are addressed through secure SDLC. That is the one thing, a solution for all these new technologies.
So there's another question which has been asked by Mr. Surya Ars from System Administrator DSM Soft. So are there any alternative to use RDP, as we are using RDP and 3389 for VD and VPN users?
Yeah, I think what one needs to do is be more careful in this kind of scenario. If you are able to enforce the timeline, see, there are certain situations where you need to give remote desktop, RDP access. But can you have authentication? Can you give two-factor authentication? If not, can you give to a time-based access? See, if RDP needs to be done at certain time, can you give him that access for that time itself? Is very important. So you may not have technology solutions during this COVID, because this is very critical time, and we don't have vendors providing all the solutions. But you can tweak your processes, monitor them, monitor all the logs which are happening when somebody is accessing you, and create that data with you. That's the only solution at this point of time.
We are having another question from Mr. Satya Prakash Sekharan, who is the head Human Resources Amtech Software Solutions. He's asking, sir, how we will come to know that we are in red alert, how we can get the indications?
Actually, nice question. It is a process. It is not something which technology can do. Of course, there are various technologies which are available, which can assess you from outside. There are tools available which actually do remote assessment of you. Like BitSight is one who does remote assessment of your company on the internet. What are your footprints on the internet, and ranks you whether you are in the red zone. So they have their own scaling mechanism from 200 to 700. So they can tell you this is where you fit in. But that's not the only solution. The right solution, as I said, in the long term is ISO 27000, which has more than 120 controls. You can monitor each control where you are today, and each quarter you can see whether your security is improving over the period of time, and you can have your red, yellow, green zones. So which areas, whether HR is doing good in information security, or admin is doing good, or whether it is IT is doing good, all the departments you can actually monitor your performance indicator using ISO 27000. Thank you so much.
Do we have any question? No? Okay. I think we may not be having any other questions right now.
There is there is
We have
one
completed- Yeah.
There is one
Yeah, there is one.
Deepak Verma who is saying, is there any government entity or wing focused entirely on cybersecurity for business or fintech industry? So there are, 2-3 institutions we have in India. One is for the, for foremost apex is RBI IT, who is focused on cybersecurity and only for fintech industry. So RBI IT is doing a job only for fintech industry. We have Data Security Council of India, which is part of NASSCOM, who is doing for entire organizations across, including fintech. And the third thing we have is CERT-In. So CERT-In is a government body which keeps on giving you threat indicators, the attacks on daily basis, and they give warnings on their website on daily basis. So using those resources on CERT-In, one can actually improve one's security on a daily basis. Thank you, Deepak.
Probably the last question of the session has coming from Mr. Cam Thang, IT and the security analyst, Full Creative. His question is, what would be the best way to convince management who are not technical and sometimes can be really adamant to implement security and attain budget for it, especially to startups?
A very nice question, and I think there are processes which you can deploy and convince them. Yes, I mean this is a generic pressure for IT guys, because they know exactly what is wrong. But converting that message into business language is something what is a need of the hour, and which is a challenge for cybersecurity. The only solution for that is a proper risk assessment process in place. I'll just give you quickly example. ISO 27000 allows you to do a proper risk assessment of each IT asset. Now, I'll talk the business language. Suppose I have to protect one ATM machine. An ATM machine carries, say, 20 lakhs as a cash. So my risk to ATM machine, if it gets stolen, is 20 lakh rupees. Now, what happens is, if I go back and tell management that I need to protect a ATM machine, and the cost of protecting ATM machine is 30 lakhs. Okay, they actually need some kind of dollar value to each IT asset. So if you are able to convert your information asset into dollar value, you can convince the management, okay, I mean, you don't, sanction the budget, you will be in the loss of say $500,000. Then, people open up. So basically some proper risk assessment methodology, if you implement and if you are able to assess the value to information asset, then there is a chance of, CFOs and CEOs typically will view it in a different. So ISO gives a good guideline for doing a risk assessment, but it's a challenge. I completely agree, and it's a long process. It's not something which happens over the period of time. Thank you so much for asking.
So one last question, probably from Mr. V. Deepak again. He's saying, sir, you mentioned 3 organizations. How are they different from NIST and CVEs? He was talking about Sartin, RBI, and DSC.
Very good. Thank you, Deepak, for asking. But I'm just talking of Indian organizations. I'm not talking as a global. NIST is, all these organizations are beyond India. So you can always refer to every resource which is available on internet. But when it comes to specific in India, these 3 organizations are guiding the industry within our own geography.
Good. I think we should close now. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dattatreya Sridhar, Mr. Khatavkar. Thank you very much. I will give the name to you, which has been given to you by Guruji, and your parents have also given a wonderful name to you. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I would like to thank all the captains of the industry who has joined to us. More than 350 people have joined us today online, and on the Facebook Live also people are joining us. And it has been very, very interactive and very good for us. We like to thank my all colleagues, esteemed colleagues from STPI, from the different centers. Mr. Rajneesh Agrawal, Director Noida, Mr. Paritosh Dandrial, Director STPI Headquarter, Mr. Sanjay Gupta, Director STPI Pune, Shri P.K. Das ji, Director STPI Guwahati, Sharendra Tyagi, Director STPI Bangalore, Subramaniam, Director Trivandrum, and Subodh Sachan from STPI HQ for joining us and listening to this wonderful discussion. A lot of participation has happened from the startups, and this is our effort. STPI's effort. We are only a bridge between you and the experts. We will continue this effort to bringing the stalwarts for you, for addressing your day-to-day issues. And this series of the webinar, which we have started under the FinBlue, shall continue. We are going to have one more webinar in coming weeks, and this will be regarding the funding to the startups, where Mr. Mahesh Ramachandran shall be addressing the startups. Until then, thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you, sir. I'll be very happy to associate with STPI any point of time. Thanks. Call me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.